Okay, hi Year 7, I hope you're all well and keeping yourselves busy. I know that a lot of you really struggled with the task last week, so I thought I'd do a little video demonstration for you for this week, just to make your life a bit easier, okay? So, I've uploaded the assignment. You'll see that there is a picture of a fruit bowl, and I've also given you an outline as well if you're really struggling. And also, if you haven't got a printer or you're not able to perhaps trace this outline off the screen, if you're really struggling, then you might just have to draw your own fruit bowl instead, or just copy the picture directly, which is what I'm going to do today. So, we're going to start off with this rim of the fruit bowl and draw that in like so, and that's going to be about 1/3 of the way down my page. Now what we need to do is start simplifying things into shapes. We're going to spend about 10 minutes drawing all the different shapes in, no detail at all, and just making sure that parts of the fruit that go inside the bowl actually look like they're going inside, like this orange here. We can't see the bottom of it, so we're not going to draw the whole orange. That might be the first shape that I draw actually. Let's draw that shape in there. We've got some kiwis sticking out the back. And this is how you're going to show you've got real skills now, because you're going to be able to draw things overlapping. It might not be right the first time, but that's okay. It's the reason we've got rubbers and pencils. And see how I'm just drawing circles. Yes, I know that peel's coming down, but I'll add that in later. For now, I'm just focusing on the shape, but also the scale of it. Is it all in proportion? Is that orange bigger than this one here? Is that pomegranate bigger than these kiwis? We need to make sure that all the things are in proportion compared to each other. And as I always say in your lessons, yes, this is difficult, but it's alright, we're just giving it a go. Now I've just realised now I've got to hear that actually I've drawn my bowl too small, so I'm going to extend it out a bit. So I've got room for this line to fit behind the kiwi as well. For this line that's had a segment cut out of it, again, we're just going to draw a circle. We'll worry about that missing piece later on. So if you look at the outline of it, it's still just a circle, or a sphere if we're getting really picky. Can you see how I'm using a extended tripod grip as well? All my lines are really light. If I started going in and pressing down really hard, it'd be very difficult to rub out any mistakes that I made. So it's important that I'm resting the side of my hand against the paper rather than applying a pressure by using like a pincer grip instead. I'm going to draw the bottom of the pomegranate in there as well, so I can see the bottom as well as the front. And we've got one more kiwi there as well, which I think I might have drawn in the wrong place actually. I think that's a bit taller, and that comes out about there. Okay, I'm quite happy with that actually. I'm not going to worry about all these other bits of fruit around the outside because we're only spending an hour on this. It's our drawing, we can do what we want with it. Rules are made to be broken, so let's just get stuck in. We just need to draw the bottom of the fruit bowl in now, and I can see that the sides are fairly straight but angled, and then towards the bottom is where the curve comes in. It doesn't curve in like a rainbow shape straight away. There's my curves, and then the bottom isn't flat. It's a round bowl, so the bottom is also curved slightly. Now our next job is to make sure that we've got all the detail in before we start shading. So things like the centre of here and how the segments all curve out. Draw that peel coming down. Again, still using an extended tripod grip because this is a shape. Now it's important to remember that what I'm marking you on here is your use of tone. That's your shading, the areas of light and dark. I know that your assessment at the end of last term was pretty much this task again, but it's always good to practice. But anyway, the point that I'm making is I'm not marking you on how good you are at being a photocopier, because that's boring. Like this grapefruit that I'm drawing here, it's all over the place really. I could do a bit better. However, it's more or less right. And I know that I'm being marked on how well I can shade it in, not how well I can draw it perfectly. What I want to know is, do you understand light? Do you understand how to show the dark bits and the light bits when you're drawing? Because that's how we're going to get them to look realistic. Now remember all those shapes that we drew in just a few minutes ago? Now that I'm confident that they're in the right place, I'm starting to darken some of them. If you really want to show off, you could do a tapered line, which is one that goes from thick to thin as well. I'm going to go for this tricky old line here. Oh, it won't let me zoom in, how annoying. Never mind. We're just going to think about it as shapes. It is a complicated shape, but just focus on a little bit at a time, okay? So I can see the outer edge of the line, the green bit. I can also see the inside of the skin where it's been cut. You see how it's lighter? So now I'm going to draw that bit in. It comes up like that. So there's this section here that I've never even noticed before, so I was too busy panicking, thinking how on earth am I going to draw this line? Now, the segments can cut out, obviously the lines are going towards the centre. We've got the bottom of the line there, and that's where the line's coming from, which is really handy for us. So we're going to draw that line in now. So that's the centre of the line where it's been cut into. And now we're going to draw this shape here, which is the other side of that segment. Now it'd be very, very tempting to do a mirror image of this, but that's not what we can see, okay? We need to draw what we can actually see. So mine starts about there, comes in. It's much narrower than the other side, which I hadn't noticed before because I was too busy panicking, thinking how on earth am I going to draw this line that's been cut into? And I'm just going to tidy up that edge there. And there we go, that was easy, wasn't it? Just an extra line in there to show the inside of the skin, and one there as well. Just another tip to remind you of as well, you need to spend about 80% of the time looking at your picture, 20% of the time looking at your page. Okay, so moving on to tone. I'm quite happy with my detail now. I can tell what each fruit is supposed to be, which is always a good start, I suppose. And we're going to start off by adding mid-tones. So they're the bits that aren't the darkest, they're not the lightest, they're the middle, the medium tones. That's what they call the mid-tones, okay? So even though I can see the light shining on the orange here, on this pomegranate here, and there as well, there's little bits of highlights on the orange as well. We're just going to do it all a medium grey for now. It's a really nice way to get back into shading if you've not done it for a few weeks as well. So we're always going to do one piece of fruit at a time. Don't be tempted to shade over the whole thing because it'll look horrific. So let's start off with this orange. I feel like it's the easiest part of the fruit bowl, so let's start off easy. We know that our object is curved, it's round, the ball shape, so we need to make sure that we're showing that through our shading by making sure it's curved, okay? Again, extended tripod grip, I'm not pressing down too hard. And as I get towards this area, I'm going to try and make my strokes a little bit flatter, and then as I get further down towards the bottom of the orange, I'm going to shade in this curved area. Sorry, curved direction. I'm not making sense this morning. I'm also going to dodge this leaf that I've forgotten to draw in as well. Right, so curving it that way, getting a little bit flatter, quite straight lines, and then curving the opposite direction. And that's going to make our orange look really, really 3D. Now it's not looking terribly smooth right now, is it? So again, I'm just going to go over my lines again. Still very, very low amount of pressure. Just filling in some of those white gaps. I cannot stress to you enough, do not press down hard. You could go and get a tissue now to smudge. However, you could also use your finger. So with my finger, I'm going to smudge in the direction that I've just shaded in. So towards the bottom, it's going to curve upwards. Towards the top, I'm going to curve downwards like that. In the middle, straight line. So that's a lovely, lovely mid-toned orange there. Does it look realistic? Nope. But it's all right, so we're going to add our highlights and our shadows in. Now, I just need to find a rubber. And with my rubber, I can see that the only place that light's really, really shiny, which is pure white, is this area here. So I'm going to find that on my orange. I'm going to add that area of highlighting. It's quite a circular shape, so I'm going to work in a circular motion. And there's my highlight. There's some bits that are dotted around as well, so I'll put those in. There we go. And now we're going to focus on the darkest bits. I've already spoken about my strength of line here, how that's the darkest line, because it's the darkest area, but I've also got a shadow here as well. And there's this line here, like a seam that runs down the orange. We're going to add that in, it's an extra bit of detail. Still keeping my shading curved, very, very important. Now I've just gone to think, oh, what sort of tone's here? I've looked on there, I've not drawn it right, so now I need to go back and fill that bit of the orange in, or my drawing's not going to make sense. I can't just invent tones, so I don't know what it would be like, because I can't see it. I could guess, but would it look realistic? Probably not. Right, so now that other orange is a more realistic shape compared to the picture, I can see that it's not quite as dark as here, but it's definitely darker than over there. So now I'm going to work in with a, I'd say a dark grey rather than a black sort of tone. We know that we can make darker tones by either building up layers. So if I went over and over this multiple times, eventually it will get darker, which is really good for building up tone gradually. However, I could also press harder to add darker tones, that's more pressure. Or I could use a different pencil type. Now if you haven't got graded pencils, don't worry. I'm not going to use one now, so I don't think it's fair, because I don't think many of you will have them, unless you're really lucky. We've already started to get a nice bit of tone on here. I think this shadow comes out a lot further than I originally thought. Now I'd say that's some quite nice tone on that orange there. And I'm also going to see all the dimples, that's the texture of the orange peel, and maybe put some of those in as well, just for even more realism than we had before. And just like I say, in all your assessments, this isn't about getting it finished, it's about showing me that you've got the skills. Let's say you only get this done in an hour. That's okay. I'd probably ask you to do one more piece of fruit, maybe a more complicated one like this lime, just to show me you've got the skills. But again, it's not about getting it finished. It's about showing me that you've understood how to show the light areas and how to show the dark areas.